Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel and episode 4 of my custom Terminator T-800 build from Agora Models. If you missed any of the episodes prior to this, there is a link to the playlist down in the description. You can click on that and go get caught up on the previous episodes. If you want to get one of these for yourself, there is a QR code on the screen or a link in the description to the Agora website. All right, friends, well, time waits for no one, so let's get to the build. Okay, friends, first I want to start off by talking about these parts a little bit. So I did put in my googly eyes here. These are not the ones I'm going to end up using. I ordered the upgraded ones from Model Mods. They just haven't come in yet. So I just have these in so I can have them stay in place there and I can check out how some other things are going to work. So that's kind of put together there. And I will have to unassemble all this, so it's not put together completely. I mean, the screws and stuff are going to loose. I did build this section here. I attached the bottom of the skull and the jaw here because I need to see what my clearances and tolerances are in here. And it looks like I've got plenty of room. One thing, open this up here. One thing I will say, for this part here where the jaws connect to the base of the skull, first you put this plastic part in, and then the base of the skull comes up from the bottom. There's a couple of slots, and you just push it up, and it's supposed to center on these holes here, and then you put a bushing in on each side, and then the screw. Well, mine did not go so smoothly, and I should have recorded it. Sorry, I just got into it, and before I knew it, I was like, well, I'll just give that some highlights. So basically, on what side was it? On this side, no, on this side, this black piece, when it goes into the jawbone here, you can see there's 4 holes there. Well, there's 2 pegs that fit in there to kind of center it up in the opening. Now, one of my pegs was not fitting through one of the holes, so I didn't notice it right away, so it was really hard to get this bottom part up in here. So I did have to drill out this hole just a little bit so that would set flat. This other one was fine, but once I got that in there and setting flat, the bottom of the skull just went right in. Also, when I went to put in my bushings, both bushings would not go all the way through and seat in. They were sticking up a little over probably 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little more than that on both sides. So again, I did have to take a round file and just give that a cleanup, that center area there of this lower jaw, so that bushing would go all the way in and sit in there. And I don't have these very tight because, I mean, obviously the jaw is going to need to move, and I don't know how strong the motor is that's going to do this, but you don't want it too tight. Plus the motor should actually hold the jaw in place in whichever position you've got it in. All right, so next I am going to have to make a small hole in this neck section here so that I can pass my wire through. I think I'm just going to make a small hole right here, just big enough to get my wiring through. I'll leave a little extra wire inside here so if it gets pulled, it doesn't, yank on the wire so much. And then as far as where the wire is going to go, it looks like I've got plenty of room up in here that I should be able to just run my wire on one side up through here into the skull and around the top and then into the printed circuit board. Now, the reason why I've got this mocked up is because I wanted to see if you're looking at this head on, are you going to be able to see that wire in there? And I don't think you're really going to see it. The wire is all black, so even if you did kind of see it, it's not going to stick out like a sore thumb. So even with the jaw open, it'd be really hard to see. You'd have to really know what you're looking for. I'll probably see it and it'll probably drive me nuts, but chances are nobody else ever will. All right, so for now, we're going to set this aside and we're going to get right into drilling a hole in this part here. All right, so I've got my mark here and I've got a really, really small drill bit because I don't want to damage the finish on this. I just want to make a small hole. All right, now we've got the hole. Yep, and it's right there. So when we place this in here, it's kind of hard to see, which is good. That's what we want. But you can see the hole in there. It's got plenty of room for the wire to go through. I'll just have to make the hole a little bigger. And then that wire should be able to fit right through there. All right, we'll be right back. All right, so I got my hole in there and I got my wires through there. I used some different wire. The wire I was going to use, it's black and it's just a little too heavy, and I didn't like how it was looking. So I've got some finer wire here. I will paint the red one black, so I'll paint them both flat black so they don't show up in there as easy. But there you go. The wires are going to come right out through that hole and then up through here behind the jaw and then into up here so they can get connected to the board. And then once this is on here, once that's on there, unless you're looking and know what to look for, you're not going to see it. I think that's going to work out really good. I will tighten these up so that jaw doesn't rub on those wires anywhere, but that's just minor. And then from the bottom, this goes in this way. So these are just there's plenty of room here, even though this moves a little bit. The wires, again, they'll be painted black and they'll probably come down this way through the front because I think that'll be less seen. Maybe the back, we'll see. That's why I want to get kind of more of the main assembly together so I can see just where I can run those wires and hide them. All right, so this is good progress, so moving on. All right, so this is why we do test fitting. So I originally was going to come up back here on this side of the jaw, but I noticed I've got plenty of room right here behind where that brace that holds the faceplate on there, and nothing moves there, so I don't have to worry about the wires getting rubbed. And then I can either go under this jaw flange or over it. I think I'll be able to come actually up and over it, which will be perfect. And you're not going to be able to see that, especially once I paint that wire, those wires black. I'll get them tucked up underneath there, underneath the roof of the mouth there, kind of just like that. And yeah, that will look cool and nobody will see it. Not even me, probably. So that's even better. All right, I'm glad we test fitted all that. So moving on. Okay, next, as I continue to build the skull up. So this is the top of the head, and as you can see here, I've already done some weathering on here, and it looks really good. So now we're going to add the first of the side panels here. I've already pre-assembled these, but these are just going to go in here like that, and then they're held on the underside here with two of the PM 2x4 screws. All right, that's nice and tight. And now we've got the side and the top put together. Now, I've detailed this part up, and this is just going to go in this. And we're going to use the same PM 2x4 screws. So we'll just flip this over, and it'll fit in there just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and get that fixed in there. All right, just like that. All right, now we're going to attach the other side over here. Okay, and there we have the top and sides of the head done. All right, moving on. All right, so now I've got the head on the bottom part here. And again, I'm just test fitting everything here. I want to make sure my wires are right length and that everything's going to work together. But I want to get this held in place. Now, I'm going to start this screw here. This is just another PM 2x4. And one's going to go right here. The other one's going to go right here on the other side. Now, one thing I will say, this side over here went in all right initially, but then on the other side, this one here would not line up. So what I had to do is I had to loosen up these screws underneath the jaw here that holds this piece on so I could get those lined up. So I'm going to retighten those a little bit just so it doesn't move around on me. But just be aware if you're having a problem getting that skull part lining up, just loosen these up a little bit so you can move it around, and you should be able to get in there, because now we've got no gaps. Well, a little bit of gap there, but that's okay. And again, no gaps on this side. All right, and now the top of the head is on. All right, let's move on to the next part, which is getting this part on. All right, so there is the skull. Kind of put together, and I definitely have my clearances correct with the wires going underneath the skull and the wires that'll be coming up into here to connect to the CPU up here. I think I am going to go up and over this jaw bracket in here just for a little extra clearance, because I know there's room on the top of the head here inside, so I can use that to run my wires. But that is a successful test, so now I'm going to kind of disassemble this a little bit, and we'll get back to building some more individual parts. All right, moving on. Okay, so as you can see, I've stripped down the parts again, so we're back to kind of like where we begin with the head assembly. So now that I know that this is going to be in here permanently, I can go ahead and make sure these are all nice and snug and tight. Make sure that moves pretty good there. All right, and then we'll go on to basically the next step, which would be putting this together, but I've already done that. Actually, just make sure these screws are nice and snug, since I won't be taking this apart again. All right, so now the base of the neck is assembled. And the next step would be putting this bracket on the lower jaw, but we've already got that part, so let's move on to the next thing, which is going to be putting this back on here. Now, I put my screws and those bushings back in here so I wouldn't lose them, so I'm going to go ahead and take those out now so we can get this reassembled. And I'm kind of just going through this process for a couple reasons. One, I really wanted to make sure I had clearance for my wiring and that all that was going to work, no surprises down the road, so to speak. And also just to become familiar with how this thing goes together and the engineering that goes into it, which is pretty cool, I have to say. All right, this just fits up in here. And then the final reason why I'm going through the steps again is I don't want to miss a step, and I don't want to run into a problem later where I jumped ahead too far and now I can't get that step together. So this way it just ensures that everything still should go together just fine in the end. All right, that's in there. Okay, next we have to assemble the neck here. So thinking, I've already had this part assembled and unassembled so many times. I think what I'm going to do is just going to fit this in here and get my wiring here. Okay, so now we've got that together. I'm just going to start this top screw just to kind of hold things in place. And I don't want that tight yet, because I got to take the base of the neck, and this is going to go down here. And again, I just want to make sure that wire doesn't get pinched anywhere. Okay, now our neck is installed and our wires are in there. All right, let's move on. Okay, so the next part in the instructions, in the flow anyways, you're supposed to put the covers over these screws here, but I'm not going to do that just yet because I can still get to these later. And just in the event I need to take this apart to maybe adjust my wire or put a different wire in, I'm not sure, but just in case, I'm going to leave those off for now. All right, so let's move on to the next stage. All right, next we're going to be doing, I guess, step 12 or stage 12, and that's starting the assembly of the right forearm. So we're going to need all these parts here, and we're going to start with this part. We're basically going to start gluing these little spring cables in place, and they're just going to sit down right inside these grooves in here, and we're going to super glue them in. So let's get going on that. Some super glue in here. Okay. And we'll just start laying these in. There's one. Make sure those are all in there and they're all pushed up against the edge right there. All right, now we're going to let that dry, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, next we're going to take this part here, and this is going to go right on this. So I'm going to get this lined up here, like so. And then this is going to be held on with one of the KB 2x4 screws. All right, that part's done. Next, we're going to be attaching this unit to the end right here. All right, so this end has a keyed slot in it, and the key, that slot, needs to go in that. So we're going to take this way, and it's just going to fit over here like so, and then we're going to use one of these long PM 3x12 screws to attach that. So it's going to go this way. And we'll get this started here. Pull that up. All right. And there we have part of our forearm. Okay, we're continuing on with the right arm, and we've got these parts here, which are just the lower arm tubes. We've got some bushings, and we've got some 12x16 screws. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is take this and one of these long ones and one of these bushings. We're going to take this kind of in this orientation. Then we're going to put one of our bushings in this hole right here, like that. Then we're going to take this arm tube, is what they're calling it. And that's going to go this way over that bushing. And then our screw is going to go in this way. All right, get that tighten up in there, and that bushing allows this to move around in here. Then we're going to take the other long one, and we're going to do the same thing on this side. So let's put our bushing in. I'm going to go ahead and put the screw down in there. And get this one started. Oop, that's our short one. Don't want to use the short one there. We want to use the long one. Okay. Get this started. Okay. Looking good. All right, now we're going to take our short one, and that one goes on last. So we'll put the third bushing in here. Get our screw going. And we'll take our short tube here and get that started. All right, and that part's done. Okay, we're going to start off with step 16, but before we do that, I'm going to do some weathering on these parts here because they're going to be kind of hard to get to once I get past this point. So yeah, I'm going to do a little weathering on these parts and then we'll get them put together. Okay, we're going to start off with this part here, and since this is plastic and these lines aren't so big, I'm just going to use my Tamiya panel line accent color and fill those in to weather them up. Like so. And you can see how that capillary action works as it just flows down through all those lines. That's what we want. Okay, just like that. And then once that dries, we'll come back and clean it up. So I'm going to do the rest of these and I'll be right back. Okay, we've got these all weathered up now with just some Tamiya panel line fluid. And I also did these here on the bottoms and a little detail weathering on this as well. So I'm going to let this dry, and then when we come back, we'll do some cleanup on that and we'll get this assembled. Okay, so now we're going to clean up our weathering. And again, I'm just using some odorless enamel thinner from Ammo for this. It works really good and it doesn't stink at all, so it's kind of nice. All right, so we're just going to take off some of that excess here. And again, I can't stress this enough. Just make it so it looks good to you. Don't, this is weathering. It's not like fine detail painting. You just want to take off some of the excess so it looks good. And if that excess looks good to you, then have excess. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so this part here, I'm thinning it out a little bit, but I want it to go like it's just a little dirty. So I don't want to take too much off. And again, that's just my preference. And this part actually doesn't take too long once you get going on it. Let's see, let's clean up these here. Those actually look pretty good. Oh, there's a little, don't like how that looks there. All right, that's our weathering all nice and cleaned up. These are looking really good. I think I'm missing a spot here. No, actually that's gonna be covered by that other piece. So I'm going to finish cleaning up a little bit of this one and we'll move on to the next step. All right, next we're going to take this part, which is back from, I think it's from stage 7. And we're going to take this part here. It's got 4 posts on one side and it's got like little teeth on the other. And that's just going to go right in here. So I want to make sure we line these up. All right. And it should fit in there firmly. So you've got your ridged areas showing. Then we're going to take this part here. Okay, then before we go to the next part, you're going to have to use one of the PM312 screws. And you're also going to need one of these little washers. So I'm going to go ahead and put the washer on this, on this 3x12 PM millimeter screw here. Now this is going to go through that center post, but it goes through from the back. So let's get it in there. So it's coming up like that. I don't want to take my screwdriver out yet. Then we're going to take these pieces. Now, let me set this down for a second. Now, there is a key in here, an alignment pin. And it's keyed to right here. You want to make sure those go in the right way so it sits just like that. So now let's go ahead and get our screw started in there. Okay, so the screw is coming through, and then we'll take this piece here, get that started. It's a little finicky with those other parts in the way, so just be patient. Actually, I'm going to get a longer screwdriver. All right, now that that's started. Okay. Now you want that tight, but it's going into plastic. You don't want it too tight, but you don't want it too loose, because if you don't get it tight enough, that when you try to pose the T-800, it's not going to want to stay put. All right. Yeah, that's good. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take these pieces here, and these are all exactly the same. Okay, next we're going to take these 3 here, and those are going to go on the end of these. And to do that, we're going to use 3 of the PB 2x6 screws. And we'll start this on here. Now you don't want to over tighten these, because if you over tighten them, it'll push that rubber out and it'll come off. So let's get the other ones done. Okay, those are all on there. Then we're going to take these and we're just going to put them in these tubes that we installed earlier. And they just slide in like so. All right, and there we have that portion of the forearm done. All right, moving on. Okay, now we're going to start building the, well, I guess this would be stage 21, the right shoulder joint. So let's get that going. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take one of these and we are going to glue it right in there with some super glue. So we're going to put some glue right around these, like so. We'll fit this in here. Make sure they're lined up. All right, just like that. All right, next we're going to basically repeat that with this second one on this side. All right, just like that. All right, next we're doing part of stage 23, which is the shoulder. We want to take this part here and we want to align it like they have in the picture. And this is the right way. And then with this piece, this is going to go in here, but you want to have these two raised parts kind of going up and down. And they're going to fit into those teeth in there. Just like that. Then we're going to take the part that we built earlier, and this is going to go in. This is keyed. It'll only go one way. So we're just going to set that in there like so. And then we're going to hold that in with a couple of the PM 3x6 screws right there. Okay, then we'll get our screws started here. And we'll get this other one. All right, so that's in there like that, and it will move. So we're going to just keep it lined up like they're telling us to for now. But that part's done. Okay, next we're going to take our right palm and this ball that we just created, and it's going to go in this hole. Now this is keyed. It only goes in one way, like that. So you want your screw facing that way. And then that's going to be held in with a KB 2x6 screw. Okay, just like that. And now I'm kind of realizing I should probably go ahead and install these balls here. Even though I'm not doing my fingers yet, I could still just do those balls. I'll still be able to do the fingers when they come in. So let's find those. Okay, so here are the other three parts, and these go in these spots right here, just like that. And these are going to be held in with some KB 2x6 tapered screws. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in. Okay, all those balls are in. Now we can keep going. Okay, next we're going to connect the wrist to this part here. So we want to take our main one, and this will just... Oh, wow, that is pretty hard to snap in there. But it's in. All right, next we're going to get these cables out of the way here. All right, so next we'll do this one here. There we go. And then this one. Then we'll do this one. And then finally, this one. All right, next what we want to do is we're going to need some tweezers. We're going to feed these spring lines through the holes up here. And we will thread that through that hole here. All right, there's our first one. And we'll do our second one. Okay, just like that. And we'll get the rest of these in there. Okay, all of those strands are through. Moving on. Okay, next we have these parts here, which we're going to have to clip off this sprue. Now these are going to connect to the ends of each of these springs, and then they'll glue in right to the underside of this hand here. All right, I'm just gonna put a little bit of super glue in here. All right, and it connects just like that. All right, I'm gonna do the rest of them. Okay, all of those ligament springs are connected. Cool, moving on. Okay, next we're gonna continue on with the right shoulder. So let's get into this. Okay, the first things we're gonna do is we're gonna cut these parts off the sprue. All right, and these two parts are just gonna fit together like that. So let's get some glue on those and we'll make that permanent. Okay, now they want us to cut the rest of the parts off and arrange them just like this. And then we're going to take this part we created earlier. And let's see, how is this supposed to go here? It's going to go just like this. Then we're going to take this part, and this is just going to fit right in there like that. Then we're going to take this piece, and this one is going to go in here, just like that. Then this one, it's going to go in just like that. So that's what we've got going on there. This one goes down here like so. So this is pointing out that way. And then this one, this last one, that's going to go just like that. All right, next we're going to need this plate and this spring. So now this spring is going to go in here like this, and we're going to take this plate and we're going to push it down over those springs, over the spring. And then we're going to hold this in place with 3 of the PM36 screws. So let's get this lined up here. I think it should go this way, correct? Yeah. So let's get a screw ready first. We'll just squeeze that in carefully. Okay, and let's get this screw in first. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this one down to hold that in. Okay, now we can get the rest of our 3 screws in there. Make sure they're tight. All right. And there is our shoulder joint. All right, let's move on. Okay, next we're going to take this piece and cut it off the sprue. And this is going to go under here. Yeah, just going to go in there. And we're going to attach that with some super glue. Okay, next we're going to take this part we just put together and this part from the previous stages. Now this is keyed. It's got a pin right there, and there's a pinhole there. So these just only go in one way. And then we're going to attach this with a couple of the PM 3x8 screws. All right, want to make sure these are both nice and tight. And there we go. That's part of our shoulder there. Okay, next we want to take this part here, clip that off, and that is actually going to go into this hole right here facing down. So we'll put that back in there. All right. And that part is done. All right, moving on. Okay, this next part, which would be stage 26, should be fun. We're going to connect the right arm with the elbow joint. So the first thing we need to do is to remove these 2 screws, and these are PM 2x6s. We want to remove those so we can open that up. So let's do that. All right, so then this piece should come off. Yep, just like that. All right, now we're going to take these little rubber discs, and the first one we're going to super glue right into here. Okay, just like that. Then we're going to take the second one, and this part here facing this way, and this is going to get super glued right into there. Okay, those are in. Okay, next we've got to bring over this assembly that we did before. And what we're going to do is there is a little we've got this little barrel here. Okay, and that is going to go right in here. So let's get that in there, hopefully without dropping it or flinging it across the room. Okay, so that just sits in there. It's not held in with friction or anything. So the next thing we need to do is, yeah, that's just going to fall out. All right, I'm going to leave that out until we're ready to attach this. But the next thing we need to do is take, and we're going to set this just like this. This is going to come over here, and this needs to go in this hole. So we'll put that in there like that. And then we're going to take this piece here, and this is going to go right over that and hold that in place. And this is where we're going to put those two screws that we took out earlier. We're going to put those back in there to hold that part of the assembly together. All right. Okay. Next, we're going to kind of slide this up into here, like so. Make sure you can see all the way through there. Okay, then we're going to take our barrel here. Now this part is, whoa, come back. This part is going to go in here like so. Now there's two sides. There's a small hole and a big hole. You want the big hole facing up, so it's going to go like this. But we got to get this barrel in here and get that around the barrel. So let's put that in there. Okay. Now we got the screw started. Let's see if we can get it to grab. Yes. All right. Let's get that tightened up in there. Okay. Now, that's how that should be looking. Okay, now we're going to take this piece from previous section. So it is keyed in here. So we'll put that down in here. And that's going to hold that joint together. All right, next we're going to take this 3mm by 10mm. Now this is an Allen screw, and you get an Allen wrench with this. And we're also going to take one of these washers over that. And that is going to fit down in here. And we'll take our Allen wrench like so, and we'll tighten this up. All right, so that'll move, but we don't want it to move so freely, so we're just going to adjust this a little bit to make it a little stiffer. Okay, now we have this cap, which is going to fit over this. Now, the cap is open, so once we glue this in, we'll still be able to access that Allen screw if we want to loosen that up. So let's put a little super glue on that down there. All right, and there we go. Now we can adjust the elbow with the Allen wrench, and we'll be able to control how much tension we have on that. Okay, I was checking out this after I finished that, and I realized that I still had a couple of spare extra washers. So those two extra washers, one goes here and one goes here. And believe it or not, when you actually have those washers in place, this moves a lot better, and you have a little more adjustment on this. So make sure you don't forget to put those washers in here when you're building yours. All right, moving on. Okay, for stage 27, we're going to continue on the shoulder. So this part from before, we're going to take these discs and we're going to super glue them into those on both sides. Okay, next we're going to take these two parts, which I cut off the screw, and we're going to test fit these. All right, that fits in just like that. So now we're going to put a little bit of super glue on there and glue that in place. Then we're going to bring this piece over, and this tab right here is where this is going to attach to. So it looks like it goes just like that. Is that right? That is right. Okay, so let's get some super glue on there. All right. Now there's some spots here where we cut it off the sprue that kind of look not too great. I'm going to touch those up here in a little bit because I also am going to do some detailing and add some weathering around these parts as well, like we've done on the other ones. Okay, that looks pretty good. We'll let that dry and then we'll come back later and we'll clean that up. All right, so we have made some major progress on this build. This is really cool. This is just a really cool build here. Need to do some more weathering here, but yeah, got a lot done this episode, and I think that's gonna wrap up this episode. So I hope you're enjoying this build series. I know I am. If you want to get one of these for yourself, again, there is a QR code on the screen you can scan, or there is a link to Agora's website down in the description. And if you're enjoying this, I'd appreciate it if you took the time to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to click that subscribe button down below. It helps out the channel and I would really appreciate it. If you have any questions, please leave me comments below. I love hearing from you guys. And until next time, friends, everyone just be safe out there and go build something.